Welcome to Vedic Wisdom Insights. Glory to my Guru, Swami Mukundananda, for showering his blessings on me and everybody. Welcome to our ongoing Isopanisad series. In the last episode, we discussed about living entities as his parts and parcels, but still we can't be equal to God. In today's episode, we will discuss 8 verses which gives description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. Sa paryagat shukram akayam avranam asnaviram shuddham apapa viddham kavir manasi paribhu swayambhur yata tat yato ratan vyadadacha chaswati bhaya sambhavaya. Translation: such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. Here, the Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of mundane world. The forms of the living entities in this world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material machine. The anatomy of a material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth, but the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul. Nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature as we are. In materially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, body and he himself are all one and the same. In the Brahma Samhita, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described as Sat Chit Anand Vigraha, which means that his eternal form fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind as we do in material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours and that he is devoid of a form we can conceive of. In the Brahma Samhita, it is further stated that with each and every part of his body, he can do the work of other senses. That means that the Lord can walk with his hands, accept things with his legs, see with his hands, and feet, eat with his eyes, etc. In the Shruti mantra, it is also said that although the Lord has no hands and legs like ours, he has a different type of hands and legs, by which he can accept all that we offer him and run faster than anyone. These points are confirmed in this 8th mantra through the use of words like Shukram. The Lord's worshipable form, Arka Vigraha, which is installed in temples by authorized acharyas who have realized the Lord in terms of Mantra 7, is non-different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of ShreeKrishna, and he expands himself into an unlimited number of forms such as Baldev, Ram, Narsimha and Vara. All of these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Arka Vigraha worshipped in temples is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Arka Vigraha, one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the service of a devotee by his omnipotent energy. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Isopanisad or any of the other Shruti mantras consider the Arka Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotees, to be made only of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanisht Adhikaris. But such people do not realize that the Lord, who is omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires. In this mantra, as well as many other Vedic mantras, it is stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification. For example, if a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of high court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualifications. But good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy and the grace of the Lord is also required. Ordinarily, the living being does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which post to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for material things due to their divided or splayed intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is only one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. That's why in this mantra, it uses the very appropriate word, yatha tat yatha, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entities just in pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to do so without interference. And if he wants to go back home, back to God, and the Lord helps him. God is also described here as Paribhu, the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who always ask goods from the Lord. The Lord supplies the things the living entities desire. If the entities were equal to the Lord in potency, if they were omnipotent and omniscient, there will be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. Real liberation means going back to Godhead. Only the Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on earth 5,000 years ago, he displayed his full manifestation as the personality of Godhead through his various phenomenal activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons with his inconceivable powers, such as Agasur, Bakasur, and Saktasur. And there was no question of his having acquired such power through any extraneous endeavor. He even lifted the Govardhan hill without ever practicing weightlifting. He danced with the gopis without social restriction and without reproach. To confirm that the Lord is always pure and uncontaminated, Sri Isopanisad describes him as Shuddham, which means antiseptic, and Apapaviddham, that means prophylactic. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing can become purified just by touching him. The word prophylactic refers to the power of his association. The Lord is also Apapaviddham because sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good, for there is no question of his being affected by sin. Because in all circumstances he is Shuddham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing powers. If the sun, which is a material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of the all-powerful Lord. So devotees, we understood from this verse how powerful God is and how his form is so different than our body. He is therefore called as omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. Let's surrender to God and Guru, contemplate on his form, qualities and meditate on it. Gradually and systematically, we will overcome from negative thoughts to the sublime thoughts. Hare Krishna.